Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you another follow-up to my Underdog Picks video review. Not just Grotmas. I had a couple of reviews and picks for what I think could win tournaments right now that people aren't quite looking at. And, spoiler alert, this is one of them. Now, I understand where confusion may be, because I am equally confused. And that's Tzeentch's thing, right? But jokes aside, we all knew that Slinus Demons looked good, I think. I've already gone back and talked about how I was wrong about Nurgle the first time around, and that's actually pretty solid too. But then you have Tzeentch, in which a lot of people go, that's fun, but I don't really want to help my opponent. And you would be correct in not necessarily wanting to help your opponent during the match. But I did want to talk about a few interesting things and probably some key data sheets that you might want to look at, that you want to take, and why I think this has more play. I don't know how much play. Like, I do still think that on a day, maybe 5 people go, what the fuck just happened? And you go, man, I just lost to Tzeentch Demons. But I do want to talk about, I don't know, maybe increasing the consistency of that. So we know how the flux tokens work by now, hopefully, kind of. I'm going to give a brief rundown, not reading everything all over again. But you get 3 flux tokens. You could spend them on an advance roll, a hit roll, a wound roll, a damage roll, a saving throw, or hazardous test made for a Tzeentch model or a Tzeentch unit. And you could use that to re-roll the test. Whenever your opponent, whenever you use one, your opponent gains one. And if your opponent has a flux token, they can use it on an advance roll, a hit roll, a wound roll, or a saving throw for a modeler unit in their army. And you go back and forth to do so, right? Now, the thing about this is that in your command phase, if your opponent has one or more flux tokens, you gain one flux token. The same way that we've all been trying to figure out how to break the new Oath of Moment, I've been scheming on some very Tzeentchian ways to how you can get more out of the flux tokens than your opponent. And if this is you're hearing this again because of that other video, I'm sorry, but I will just talk about one thing that I've noticed is that the timing and necessity of some of these. The flux token, gives you basically command reroll. And it doesn't stop you from using command reroll, but it also frees you up to use command reroll a second time, if you really need it, right? That's essentially what the flux tokens do for you, but they also can boost up some of the stratagems, such as Impossible Eclipse, into which for 1 CP, the first effect is that you could select either No Man's Land or your opponent's deployment zone to make that Shadow of Chaos. And you can spend a Flux token to make the entire board Shadow of Chaos. And I was really trying to figure out why I would need this, because you don't have the deep strikes. However, you do have the fact that you trigger Battle Shock Test, and in Shadow of Chaos, it will be at -1. And then some Mortal Wounds. And some of your effects would like Battle Shock Test to happen besides just playing Demon. So it's fine. I also want to add the fact that after watching Slanesh do nasty things this past week or so, um, my eyes have been opened a little bit more to maybe, I guess, if you're trying to be competitive, you don't have to take all of one flavor of Demon. I probably would still only use Zinch units. Primarily, we'll talk about that in a second too. But I think things do get a bit more competitive when you take that restriction off of yourself if you are literally just trying to win. Now, if you're trying to win and do it with Tzeentch Demons, well, I don't know what to tell you. That's another thing and a half. But that's that. So you don't necessarily always have to spend Flux tokens and the timing of it. Impossible Eclipse, any phase. Another two rather, that are asking for you to use Flux tokens if you really want. You have Flickering Reality and Delirium Unmade, which is the fight phase. And guess what happens after the fight phase? The next player's command phase. So if this is happening at the end of your opponent's fight phase, and, well, the end of your opponent's fight phase, this goes both ways, but end of your opponent's fight phase, they don't have time to necessarily spend that token in their turn to be more powerful. Like, yeah, you'll give them one, but we're going to assume that you are taking Inescapable Eye. It's only 10 points. But then when it comes to your command phase, you get 2 tokens. You gain 1 additional flux token. Because last minute at the fight phase, you gave them at least 1 token. And if they want to use that, fine. It's only 1. But by the time it comes back around to you, you're getting 2 for the price of 1. And you got decent effects that, again, you don't need to use the flux token for. Flickering Reality is roll 1d6, then you can spend 1 flux token to re-roll the result. You don't always need to do that. Until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit on an unmodified hit roll of that result, the attack sequence ends, even if the original hit roll would have been a crit. So, basically, if you are getting hit on, let's just say you're getting hit on 2s, as long as you don't roll a 1, you don't really need to use a flux token. Yeah, you could go for the 6, but every 3 is now a miss, right? If you're getting hit on 3s and you spend this and you roll a 1 or 2, then you might want a flux token reroll. If you're getting hit on 4s, do you really need to pop this stratagem? Right? So, like, it does ask you to really consider how badly you need it. If you're getting hit on 3s, that's, a 66% chance that they will hit you. And then you still have the option to roll the 1 CP to see if you will need to spend a flux token to give them. So you could be greedy and go for the 6, but don't really need to do that. Then with Delirium Unmade, this is the one that for the cost of a flux token, you can pull 2 of your Legion's Demonica units out of combat and put them into reserves. But beyond that, you just get uppy downy outside of engagement range for 1 unit. If you have 2 units that are in combat still that you really don't want them to be in, go ahead and use this. But beyond that, how badly do you need to pull a unit out of combat with Tzeentch? Truly, right? How badly do you need to spend the flex token? So that's where it is like, yeah, you could do that. Now going to Pyrogenesis, into which this one, again, how badly do you need to do it? Don't get me wrong. 2 CP to buff up the strength characteristics of models in your unit for a shooting or fight phase? Cool. Do I really need to spend the flux token for +3 and +1 AP? Maybe, but I don't think it's a necessity. I'm already spending 2 CP. And to all of these points, going to I'm still playing Tzeentch models. I think I want to treat this kinda exactly with the same loophole as playing Space Marines right now, where you don't necessarily take the chapter keywords just to get the +1 oath. What if you're playing Tzeentch coded demons, right? So to get onto this, I think the Soul Grinder is best here, purely for the fact that putting Tzeentch on it gives you access to Warp Gates. And one of my biggest gripes with the Demons list right now is that you don't have consistent popping tank thing. You need that pretty badly. So when there's something with 48 inches blast that can at least now have that as a possibility, and it has deep strike, that helps immensely. And if you give it Tzeentch, it can then benefit from the shit down here in the stratagems. Maybe you want to give that for 2 CP plus 2 strength, taking it from 12 to 4s. If you are like wounding something that's T12 on 4s, you want to wound it on 3s. And then again, I asked you, do you need to go with the +3 +1 AP? Or do you really need to take your Soul Grinder out of combat? I think your Soul Grinder wants to be in combat, right? But, if somebody is all of a sudden missing their things that would have been hits versus a Soul Grinder that is T11 with a 3 up save, 4 up invuln, and 14 wounds. Yeah, I think that'll be pretty fucking annoying. So that's my first. Maybe we go generic and just give it the Tzeentch keyword and see what happens. The next one would be the Demon Prince of Chaos with wings. Now, with the Neverblade, it is pretty easy to go, alright, Lord of Change, you're up. We're going to make you a melee monster. But how about we don't do that and give it to something else with wings? Because it's more likely to be a melee monster. With Malefic Destruction, once per battle at the start of the fight phase, +3 to the attacks characteristics of the Hellforged weapons, and each time this model is selected to fight, you can either choose lethal, precision, or sustained hit 1, and because we're going Tzeentch, you get +3 to the Infernal Cannon. So you get some degree of shooting, but more importantly, you want to use the one that does the fighting, and has fly with deep strike, so again, the uppy downy at least gets you a little bit better there. But beyond that, giving it the Neverblade will take it to strength 10, AP 3, with 7 attacks before you add another 3 that once per turn, and with sustained and or lethal. Or sustained or lethal, not and. That's thing number 1, right? Thing number 2, with the Infernal Puppeteer, if you have this flying, deep striking monster, now mind you, you're playing demons. Pretty much everybody can deep strike. Shout out Scarbrand, I guess. Getting angles with Infernal Puppeteer will be a lot easier when it is, each time the bearer that has Infernal Puppeteer can select one friendly Tzeentch unit within 9 inches of the bearer. If you do, you can determine range and visibility from that one. So you have a Demon Prince of Chaos with wings that is acting as a primer, or I guess not a primer, an observer unit. There we go, Tau. An observer, and you have Neverblade to actually punish with actually a real attack. 7 on 10, 3, 3. Now you could, of course, still use the sweep profile with 15 attacks sustained, strength 8, AP 1, damage 1, right? You could still do that and give that sustained. And the +1 to hit does come in handy because a lot of things in the game are moving to -1 to hit. So, you just go back to hitting on 2s pretty much. Just saying, I think if you put some Soul Grinders and some Demon Prince with wings, I think Scintillating Legion gets a little bit better. But beyond that, what other things do I think you actually need out of Tzeentch? Kairos. I think you need Kairos pretty much for one head looks forward. Each time you target a friendly Tzeentch Demonica unit within 6 inches of this model with a stratagem, roll 1d6. If the result is greater than the current battle round, you gain 1 CP. So on turn 1, it'll probably be free. And if you want to go with Pyrogenesis to get something out of the way really quickly, because you deep struck, because you are a Chaos Demon, yeah, maybe the 1 CP spend for it might not be too bad. So I think there's Kairos, and then you have Lord of Deceit, into which it'll just be a little bit better, right? Strength 9 attack, possibly going up to Strength 12 with Pyrogenesis if you feel you need it, with a bonus AP, which will undo the penalty basically from indirect fire. I'm just saying. Then Lord of Change, in your shooting phase, you get either ignores, covers, lethal, or sustained D3 for the Bolt of Change. You are already bringing a Lord of Change, but did want to talk about the fact that it can give ranged attacks +1 strength. So put that next to the Demon Prince of Chaos that is now going up to 6/1/2, 6 attacks, just spamming around for that Infernal Puppeteer. Then Blue Horrors. They have Infiltrate, and they worsen leadership characteristic by 1, so going to the Impossible Eclipse, that's where you might have a little bit more fun with this stratagem, and might be needed. Flickering Reality on Pink Horrors also could be pretty fucking annoying. So that's Blue Horse. And the Changeling, another candidate for why you would want to turn the field um, into Impossible Eclipse. That way, when they take the test to try to shoot you, it is at -1, essentially. And if they fail the Battle Shock test, now they're Battle Shocked and they can't target the model at all. And it's easier to know where that attack is coming from because the Changeling is lone up and stealth. So, go around, score some points, piss people off. It's the Changeling. Lore accurate. And finally, I did want to talk about the consideration for the Walking Demon Prince because it does give out an aura of stealth, and an aura of stealth, meanwhile, I can't really hit you in combat, and then I leave combat, might not be the worst thing. Might not be the worst thing. So, that's up for consideration. I think Scintillating Legion does have some things. I don't know how consistently it pulls off. In fact, I'm pretty sure that it is impossible to make this consistent. But I do think I might as well try to talk about the funny things that I found so far that definitely could catch people off guard and probably be a bit better than people are expecting. So TLDR, hold your flux tokens until your opponent's end of your fight phase, and then fuck them over by gaining 2. And repeat, rinse and repeat. And do all the nasty things with, command points instead of necessarily relying on the flux token itself. So, yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.